All right, we're continuing our national conversation here about race and about radio personality Dr. Laura Schlesinger and her repeated use of the N-word during a show on the air earlier this week. My guests here are Buck Davis and Al Vivian, both work in the diversity field. And they're experts on this, and they've been very open. We're going to be very open because I think you need to, in order to really have a conversation. You heard the president, and I'm getting the transcripts here from her radio show the other day. You heard the president say we need to have a national conversation about race, but we don't need to do it on cable television. Well, I think this is a good place to start because this is where we hear a lot of news, and this is where a lot of it with Shirley Sherrod and all of that. Yes. Okay, so when is it appropriate? I said, I think Dr. Laura made a point when she said, why can't we talk about it without there being isms? Is it in the approach? Is it in the process? Is it in the way you do it? When is it, and when and how is it appropriate to talk about these issues?
All of the above should be thought about.
You know what, let me ask you this.
Yeah.
This happens a lot.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm at a neighbor's house. I go to a function or whatever in a neighborhood, which is, you know, there's a mixed neighborhood. Now, I'm one of the only African Americans.
Got it.
And there will be a discussion about race or something about the president or something that will come up, and I will be the one who will be asked. And I'm sure that's the experience of a lot of African Americans or Hispanics or whatever.
Yes.
Should I allow my white friends, neighbors, colleagues, associates that leeway to ask me those questions and answer them, or should they know that in some sense it may make me uncomfortable or a little bit inappropriate to feel like I'm speaking for the entire black population?
I think it's not an either or, it's an all of the above. It's an and both. It depends on how close that relationship is. It depends on what kind of you are. In other words, are you open to have the conversation or not? And if they're close friends, they know that. Now, I'm a believer that I'm that guy that's always believed, I'll answer your question, I'll tell you anything you want to hear. But if I give you my opinion, value my opinion. Because you're not asking me, when you say, what's your opinion? You're not saying, do you have the poll on what every black person in the country feels? But I can give you my opinion on what I think that is. And if I give you my opinion, take my opinion and value my opinion. You know, and I don't mind the honest debate back and forth. But when the intent is to just get me to rubber stamp what they want to hear, then I have a problem with that. And so I will then always say exactly what I know. And I'm just lucky that I know the statistics and everything.
It's just I've been asked that question so many times, just about a number of different issues over the course of my life that my stock answer used to be in the 80s was, I'm not the African American authority. In the 90s it was, do you have any other African American friends that you can ask that question? I'm not sure I can answer that. And then now I'm not sure how to respond to that. Go ahead, Buck Davis. What do you think? When is it? And we should be talking about this. We should not castigate people. If they make one mistake, we shouldn't paint them as racist.
Right. I don't think Dr. Laura is racist. I think she's just very naive, and the comment sounds very racist. I think it's very normal for a lot of people to want to know the African American perspective. However, when we ask one person to speak on behalf of the entire group, that's when it becomes problematic. Because underneath that, at the fundamental core, it's you folks are all alike. And it's mainly steeped in, I really don't know a lot of you folks, and so I'm going to make the assumption that being different, you must all be alike, eat the same types of food, listen to the same types of music. As a white person, and white people, my experience has been we know that we're all so very different. We don't make the same assumption about our own race. But when we have a smaller group of people, we go, oh yeah, they're different than me. They must be alike in some way. Underneath that, I think the context in which a lot of people get these questions is, I want to know more about you. Help me learn more about you to understand you and your group.
So there's an honest place that it comes from.
Oh, yeah, right? I do believe.
And that makes all the difference in the world.
Yeah, but it also makes a difference, awareness, being aware of why you're asking the question. To just ask the question and not know where it comes from is a sign, really, of ignorance.
Yes.
Right?
Well, ignorance or just being naive.
Naivety. Maybe that's a better way of putting it.
Quite often I'll ask, and why do you ask me?
Yes.
And so then that will let me know where they're coming from, to let me know what direction I need to take as well.
Oh, thank you. That's going to be my new approach when that happens. Are you ever asked, before the break, are you ever asked your opinion as a white person? What do you think as a white person?
No. No one ever asked me to speak.
And I don't want to be disingenuous.
No.
I don't want to be disingenuous, and I'll say this to the audience. I'm asking you that question, but we have you here for a reason, for diversity, right? And to offer that perspective. But I don't think that you speak for all white people. No. And I don't remember any time that besides asking a question as a journalist, in my personal life where I ask someone, how do you feel about that as a white person?
Or how do white people feel about that? I don't ever get that question. Because if it's a white person doing the questioning, they know. White people are different. They think different. They have different interests. They have a different opinion.
Yeah. This conversation that we're having, what's happened over the summer, Dr. Laura, all of this, this is, for me, this is a great argument for diversity, because I hear conversations like this on television all the time, and sometimes the panel will be all one race, talking about an issue, and you're like, wait a minute, don't you need that? Maybe if Dr. Laura, and I don't know what her staff is like, maybe someone could have said, hey, listen, Dr. Laura, punched it on the headset and talked about it, or the same thing in your personal life. That's why my mom always says you're like the United Nations since I've been a kid. So I don't have to ask those questions. What do you think as an Asian person? What do you think as an Iranian person or whatever? Do the research with people, get to know about them, and you don't have to ask those questions because it becomes innate. Okay, go ahead.
Well, I think she blew it when she didn't ask more questions.
Thank you.
That's where she blew it.
It was a
Totally blew it.
it was a legitimate concern from this woman, right?
Yes.
And it could have been a conversation where you actually got something accomplished, but she accused the woman of being hypersensitive and was she hypersensitive? Was Dr. Laura hypersensitive? The way she handled it? Yes? No? That's someone talking in your ear.
I don't think she was sensitive enough to the pain that the woman was in. The woman obviously had some pain in her life, and she was seeking a trusted advisor to give her some help, which sounded like a lot of hate to me.
All right. That people talk in our ear all the time, so you know when we go, now you got it. You're like, what's that? All right, so I'm going to read this. This is they were saying you have a full screen. If you're that hypersensitive about color and don't have a sense of humor, don't marry out. That is what she said. Don't marry out of your race. Roll up a little bit on this. When somebody says, what do blacks think? Say, this is what I think, answer the question, and discuss the issue. I really thought that once we had a black president, the attempt to demonize whites hating blacks would stop, but it seems that it has grown, and I don't get it. Okay. So why you shouldn't marry interracially? So that's when it really went off the...
She has dug a deeper hole for herself. That's all that she did. It just got uglier and uglier and uglier when she just should have put the brakes on it and asked more questions.
Where does that come from, though? I don't even know where someone's brain. And again, I don't know. Dr. Laura has apologized. I'm not beating up on her, but I don't know where someone's thought patterns even go to that from that conversation.
I think Dr. Laura spoke to what a lot of people still. I think she spoke to how a lot of people still think. She's just said it. I think a lot of people think we've got an African-American president. Why are you complaining about racism? I think she says, don't pull this whole NAACP number on me.
Yeah.
Underneath that, I think she's saying, don't pull that race card on me. That you can't use your race to justify your pain.
Okay.
That's what I think is underneath that, Don.
Thank you very much. It's going to have to be the last word, and we're going to talk more about it throughout this hour. Al, Vivian, Buck Davis, appreciate your honesty. We appreciate you giving us a little leeway here to talk about this very sensitive and touchy issue. This is a hot button, and we want to discuss it, and we want your comments. If you agree or disagree with anything we said, reach out to us, and we will certainly take your comments under consideration. We may get them on the air. We'll talk a little bit more. Thanks again to our guests, and thanks again for listening and for watching. First, though, it was